Hey everyone, thank you for coming to watch. So I've got an update for you guys on the tropics here. So right now we have 3 ongoing tropical cyclones out there in the Atlantic, and for the main part of the update, we're going to be focusing on Hurricane Lee. I've got you guys your daily update here, getting into our Friday. All right, Lee is now pretty much giving its impacts towards the northeastern coastline. We're starting to get those gusty winds out here, and starting to see some heavy rainfall move closer towards the Cape Cod region of Massachusetts. So we really got to watch out for these impacts. We're going to see some pretty major impacts from Hurricane Lee. All right, this is a Category 1 hurricane with sustained winds at around 80 miles an hour. All right, and this is moving pretty much northeast in this general direction, kind of like that, at around 20 miles per hour. All right, and so we really got to watch out for the now the impacts of what Lee will bring. All right, then we have Tropical Depression 15, which is now expected to become Tropical Storm Nigel. As we get into next week, I think this will probably be Tropical Storm Nigel, probably somewhere around Sunday. I would say, but I think next week we'll get a hurricane out of this. This is expected to become a major hurricane, Category 3 to Category 4, as this gets very, very close to Bermuda. So we're really gonna have to watch that. Then obviously we have Tropical Storm Margot, pretty much doing its thing out there in the Atlantic. All right. I'll switch this to the 7-day outlook here, the 7-day panel. All right, just to show you guys that there is another tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa right now. All right, this has a 20% chance of development. I think that this one's gonna have a chance to develop. But I think that this one, if it gets into this region here, which I think it might, we really got to watch out if this thing's going to hit the United States, all right? We cannot say anything about this thing hitting the United States other than that there's a small possibility that this thing could near the United States, all right? But I do think that, according to latest model run guidance, I think we will get a storm kind of like Lee, but it might take a different path. So we'll be moving on to our satellite loop for Hurricane Lee right here. Really, you can't see much on Hurricane Lee. It's not really looking pretty sharp on satellite imagery here. You have nothing but clouds out on the eastern side. This entire eastern side of the storm is nothing but clouds, so that's pretty much torn apart. Lee is not the hurricane it used to be. All right, this is most likely going to be a tropical storm as we get into tonight. I think it's really going to weaken a lot. You can see that we still got some outer bands. All right, they're reaching into parts of Rhode Island, parts of Massachusetts coastline. They go into looks like this is parts of southeastern Connecticut, parts of eastern Long Island. So it could start raining for parts of you guys tonight. I really do think so. So these outer bands stretching far inland and still got a pretty large moisture content on this northwestern side of the storm. But notice how there is still some pretty good circulation around the rest of the system. So that could signify some stronger winds still around the center of that storm. Just got to watch out for that. But otherwise, Lee is pretty much just losing steam, giving its final blow to these areas that are being impacted by the storm. You have Martha's Vineyard out here in Nantucket. I think you guys are somewhere in this region. You guys are probably getting in some of that rain. It's going to rain very hard tonight. It's going to be pretty crazy. You're going to have the driving rain with those very strong winds. You're going to get frequent gusts that will likely be around 45. I think you're going to get a few gusts tonight that will really sound they'll sound concerning to you, I'm sure. I've heard gusts up to 60, and that they sound pretty. It's the real deal. So just make sure that if you have to, you're sleeping. Make sure you're sleeping in one of the lower levels of your house. I would say that if your bedroom, all right, is in the upper level of your house, I would just try and sleep in the lower levels of your house, because if a tree comes down, you don't want it to crush you while you're in the upper levels of the house, because the roof caves in. But you also don't want to be near any windows, so you want to stay away from that. All right. So we'll look at let me get rid of this. We'll look at the 5-day cone now from Lee. All right. So our current wind field estimate is that we have still hurricane force winds around the center of the storm, which is marked here. So it's very interesting to see that we still are hanging on to a hurricane. But notice how our current wind field, has stretched now into parts of southeastern Massachusetts. This goes into Rhode Island. Okay, and that's where we have our current wind field estimate of tropical storm force winds. All right. So we're expected that the system will continue as a hurricane through tonight. Then we get into probably late tomorrow morning. We're waking up tomorrow morning. This will likely be a very, very low end Category 1 hurricane or a high end tropical storm. This plows right through Nova Scotia. All right, notice how Nova Scotia, the entire coast of it, is under a hurricane watch. And the entire coast is also at the same time under a tropical storm warning. All right, and then you can see in the yellow here we go up towards Atlantic Canada. There are also tropical storm watches. We're expecting the storm to impact you guys probably midway between 2 p.m. Tomorrow. So we're getting into like the afternoon hours of tomorrow into dinner time. I think the middle of the night is for you guys out there in Atlantic Canada, and for those of you in northern Newfoundland, I would say pretty much middle of the night, Sunday going into Monday is when you could get tropical storm force winds and conditions out there. But otherwise, I think just the main impacts are going to definitely be along parts of Nova Scotia and the northeastern coastline. Also, notice that the same tropical storm warning goes all the way down towards the Rhode Island coastline. Other than that, that's pretty much it for those alerts. All right. So that's the 5-day cone with Lee. After that, we're pretty much done with Lee. Alright? Just here looking at the GFS model for our current wind speeds. Here, just looking at what the possible winds and wind gusts could be. Alright? I know you can't see the entire Northeast. That's just because I want to just show those areas that are going to actually get, and see those stronger winds. So we see here Lee is definitely going to spread out that wind field of its hurricane force winds. You can see that the wind field that is on Lee is pretty good still. You got calmer winds around the center of the storm, a lot of wind circulation here. All right, and you still got winds that are hanging around 75 miles an hour. All right, so this is the Massachusetts coastline right here. All right. And so Lee is excuse me, it's lined up with the Massachusetts coastline, okay? And at this point, you're probably having sustained winds around along the coastline here at around 40, 45 miles an hour, okay? And you're getting gusts up to 70, I would say. I think you're going to get high-end tropical storm force gusts. I think you could get a few gusts that could reach over 70 miles an hour. I would not be surprised, okay? But again, you never know. But these are sustained winds in knots, and so when you see in these reds here, these are just those sustained winds. Sustained winds meaning that the constant wind is blowing at around 56 knots, which is around 65 miles an hour. Okay, that's pretty strong. Okay, and so this goes right towards this is chugging right towards Newfoundland. Notice how though just off the coast of Maine, you have some pretty strong winds as well. You can see that you've got pretty much sustained winds at around 40 to 50 miles an hour. That's going to bring gusts up to 65 at least. All right, that's why you had those hurricane watches. They have gone down for Maine for the most part, but they're still up for Newfoundland. All right, this impacts you guys. I would say the earlier the storm hits, the stronger the winds will be. But pretty much an hour or so after landfall on you guys, those winds are going to almost completely die down here. We go from 8 a.m. on Saturday to this is around 2 p.m. So just after lunchtime on Saturday, and we go from seeing the maximum winds here at around 60 knots, which is around 65, 70 miles an hour, down to about 50 knots, okay? And then we go all the way to 8 p.m. and we barely have any really hurricane force wind. We probably this is definitely a tropical storm at this point. We've still got some stronger offshore winds. All right, and then this moves into Atlantic Canada. Here goes through Newfoundland, and that's pretty much it for the most part. So, we'll move on to our rainfall amounts here. Okay. And so you can see that the rainfall is not very concerning, okay? I think that we're going to see higher amounts firmly, okay? But you can see that the majority of the areas that will be seeing the heaviest rainfall are either up here in Atlantic Canada, in parts of southeastern Maine, or into Nova Scotia, okay? You see these areas that we're concerned about across the northeastern coastline here. You can see that stretching all the way out towards Nantucket and the Massachusetts coastline. I mean, we're only expecting around 1 to 2 inches for you guys in total. All right, it's gonna be raining for hours. It's gonna be raining for like 7 hours straight, and you're pretty much just gonna get around. I would say a good estimate, a comfortable estimate, is around 1.5 to 2 inches. All right, but for the rest of you guys, just in these dark greens, if you're in any of these dark greens or near any of these dark greens, all right, you could expect some higher amounts, maybe 2 to 4 inches. All right, that's certainly going to lead to coastal flooding. If I had to put a bet on where I think the most coastal flooding will be, I would say 2 areas. Okay, I would say in this area right here. All right, this is along the Canadian and U.S. Borderline here across parts of eastern Maine and parts of southeastern Canada, where you see these totals of 4 to 6 inches across the coast. You not only have that, but you have the strong offshore winds that are rotating around the storm. And since the storm is moving in a counterclockwise direction, all right, this is rotating in a counterclockwise direction. Those winds are pushing those swells up into the coastline. Let me redo that arrow for you guys. But you can see that again. If you get what I'm saying here, the reason why you're seeing coastal flooding on this specific point is because you have that heavy rainfall across the coast that's going to put inches of rain probably on the ground here because it's raining for a consecutive hours. Okay, but you also have those winds that are pushing those waves. That you have the storm surges, those winds pushing those waves up to those seawalls. All right, and some of that water spills into the streets. That gathers up also with that rainwater. Whereas you have probably up to about a foot of water on the streets. All right, that's pretty much the layout for hurricane and coastal flooding, and it's looking likely that we'll get that in parts of southeastern Maine. There's another area I'm concerned about, and sure enough, it's this area right here. Okay, you can see that the rainfall amounts aren't that bad. You're only expecting around 1 to 2 inches just for the Cape Cod region and Nantucket of Massachusetts, but you are going to have certainly, I would say, up to Category 1 hurricane force wind gusts across this region, and tonight and to tomorrow. And I would say if because you're getting you're seeing around an inch of rain for this area here across like Nantucket and Cape Cod. You're also getting those very big swells here, where you guys are in this weird area where those waves are a lot bigger because you're extended farther out into the ocean. All right, so those waves have a shorter time to get to you guys, meaning that they don't get lower and lower as they approach the coast, so they just slam right into you guys. And so, I mean, I really do expect some major coastal flooding, especially for this area. So you guys just gotta make sure you're watching out for some very, very big waves. If you're someone who lives along the coastline out here and you're watching this video, don't be scared. Make sure that you are prepared. I'm hoping that you're prepared, but you really just got to watch out for some pretty major coastal flooding. But these are just two of many areas that are going to be inundated with many large amounts of water, and I really am concerned for those specific areas that I pointed out there. All right, this is our peak surge, our peak storm surge map here. not too bad. It's not looking that concerning, okay? We can see that, the biggest of storm surge pretty much in that same area, going down from the border of the United States and Canada, and then this goes down through the main coast. All right, this is the coast. This is the Gulf of Maine coastline. Okay, this goes down the coast of New Hampshire all the way towards Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and Boston Harbor. We're expecting around 1 to 3 feet of storm surge, right? So that wall of water is going to be around 1 to 3 feet tall, okay? So eliminate, let's say, an inch and a foot and a half of that. You could likely have, around a foot and a foot and a half of water on those roadways, okay? That is probably high enough to stall out some engines. I would say that you're going to get some locally higher amounts. So you could definitely get you'll definitely, if you are driving, which you should certainly not be when the hurricane is at its peak, and you're driving and you encounter a flooded road. I would say there's a good chance you'll encounter a flooded road where the water on the road, it's high enough to cause your engine to stall out. Okay, we see along the Long Island Sound too. You'd think like, wait, what are you talking about, Long Island Sound? Well, these winds are going to be reaching pretty far into the Northeast, and so we still will see gusty winds across the mainland of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and into Long Island. So since you have that storm again rotating counterclockwise, you have winds pushing down like that. That's pushing all this water up in the Long Island Sound down towards these northern beaches here, these beach lines. Okay, um, and then you're also obviously going to get some pretty big waves out here on the South Shore. But both the North Shore and the South Shore, I would say you guys are probably going to see some pretty big waves at least. And if you didn't know already, I actually live out here. I'm pretty around here. I'm not in the Flushing area, but I am out here. All right, so I will keep an eye out for some coastal flooding. And if I do spot some, I will try and explain to you guys and show why, what's going on out there. But you could see around the Montauk area, I would say you guys could see up to 3 feet of storm surge, but it's a big area that's going to be impacted by Leah. That's certainly expected. But again, those wind speeds, I think too, you could get wind gusts that could reach 40, 45 miles an hour, pretty much across this entire area. That's certainly possible. All right. And so we're done with Lee after that, all right? But this is the next storm that was likely going to become a hurricane. This is newly formed Tropical Depression 15, all right? Tropical Depression 15 formed earlier this morning. We were tracking it. I was tracking it for a few days prior to its formation here. All right, this was not unexpected. This pretty much happened. It happened quickly, but we knew this was going to happen here. You can see that it's just like any other developing tropical system here. It's got some pretty good convection going on both sides of the storm, meaning that it's starting to wrap around itself, which is early. So this could become a pretty early hurricane here, but I think we'll see get a tropical storm out of this by early tomorrow morning. I think really when you wake up tomorrow, this will likely be Tropical Storm Nigel. But if not, it would probably be around late afternoon. All right, nothing to really see here other than that the fact that it's popping off some pretty good convection around the center of the storm. Some more convection out here going on the northeastern part of it, but it's looking pretty healthy. It's just doing its thing out there, trying to develop out in the southern Atlantic. So we look at the current model intensity guidance. This is just a spread chart of all the models and what they're saying for how strong the storm will get here. All right, and you can see the majority of the models take it up to Category 1 status at least. Some in which take it up to Category 2, and a few take it up to Category 3. I think we're going to get a Category 3 hurricane out of this. That's the current forecast from the National Hurricane Center. You'll see that in a moment. But you can see the models are still all over the place with this, all right? This will definitely tighten up in strength. This will tighten up a little bit. as we get into the future here. Once we get a few days out. All right, but I really do think that these numbers will go up, and we might even see a few members take this up to Category 4 status. So you never really know what's going to happen this far out, but I think we're going to get a pretty strong hurricane out of Tropical TD 15, okay? So we look at the 5-day cone here. This was given out by the National Hurricane Center. You can see we're expecting this to become a tropical storm by 2 p.m. tomorrow, okay? And this continues all the way toward to Monday. We're getting to the transitioning from Sunday into Monday. All right, and we have a full-on hurricane. Excuse me. Going into Monday morning. Okay, and then we get to 2 p.m. Monday, so you're pretty much around lunchtime on Monday, and you probably have a Category 2 hurricane here. And then by Tuesday, we get to midday Tuesday. That's when we get our major hurricane marks here. These are our major hurricane points. Bermuda, you guys are not in the cone. This has shifted north, all right? Let me tell you guys, there's been a lot of shifting already in just day one of the cone here. We kind of saw, we saw something like this, okay? And if we didn't go out this far towards Bermuda, but if we had the same cone as what we had earlier this morning, you guys, Bermuda, you guys would be in the cone of uncertainty. Okay, but this has shifted farther east and north. Okay, so now Bermuda, you guys are just outside the cone. For those of you that are concerned that this will impact the United States, I don't think that this is going to hit the United States, and I'll show you why in a minute. All right, but I think that this will just be a fish storm, and the worst that's going to happen is that you're just going to get some bigger waves out here on the outer banks of the Carolinas, and then down towards Florida, and just pretty much up the coast. All right, so it may look pretty scary to see the storm as a major hurricane, but also heading towards the United States. Not only me, but the pros, the National Hurricane Center is expecting the storm to curve and go out to sea. So you don't really have to worry about Nigel, but you always want to keep a close eye, especially when the storm gets pretty close to the United States here. So we look at the current, these are the GFS ensembles here. All right, you can see they're pretty tight. They're already pretty tight. So we pretty much have a good idea of what's going to happen all the way towards here. So we see the storm. We're getting to a strong point here. Sorry, I turned off my mic. We see this maroonish red markings here. These are storm members that are taking this down to a 970, 960 millibar Category 1, Category 2 hurricane, okay? Some of these members take it up to an even stronger hurricane. We have, sticking around 970 millibars, so not the strongest of storms here. We see some of these pink tracks here. These pinkish red and pink tracks here. These are stronger tracks that likely get down to Category 3 status, and that signifies a major hurricane. All right. So I think the GFS is under strengthening this just by a bit. All right. But you just gotta watch out for the direction of the system, because some of these members take it up a little bit farther north towards Newfoundland. All right. You guys could surprisingly be near the cone of the storm as we get to a point here. We just don't know where exactly the storm's going to go. Alright? Some of these members, these lingering members, take this farther south. So I would say really after this point here where you see 975 millibars and the number 144, I think that's the point where our second phase of the storm is going to be, where our next cone of uncertainty is going to be. Alright? So for the last part of the update, we'll just look at the wide view of the Atlantic, look at what other storms could form, where they're going, and pretty much just what's going to be happening throughout the rest of the month of September. All right. So here's Tropical Depression 15. All right. It's this pretty much this area of low pressure here. All right, and we see it takes pretty much all the way toward. So this goes all the way to Monday, the GFS. And we still don't have a hurricane on our hands, all right? The National Hurricane Center already is expecting a Category 1 hurricane at this point. GFS is showing a low-end tropical storm. So as it's very interesting to see the difference between the already forecast and just the regular GFS model here. But the GFS takes us all the way towards, we're getting into pretty much, this is going to be late. This is going to be late Monday where we finally get a hurricane out of this, okay? And it's pretty much moving northwest, pretty much in a northwesterly direction, all right? So at this point, you may be thinking, some of you again, that this could be going towards the United States. The only way that that can happen is that we get rid of this high pressure, which we likely won't, all right? And we get some stronger high pressure farther south, keeping the storm bogged down, all right? That would push this in a direction right here because it senses that there's that there isn't much ridging here. There may be there may be some troughing over there, so it goes in that direction, and that direction is the United States. All right, that would be the only direction the storm would go. Is if it were to be pulled maybe into the United States. If we had a slower moving trough, maybe it could grab onto it. If this gets closer to the United States, maybe that trough could pull it into the United States. We really don't know. All right. But the GFS has this thing turning away from the United States and going out to sea, right? And we're pretty much done with that, all right? We don't see much going on after that, but wait and see, all right? You're going to see some rotation showing up soon. Here we have a tropical wave, all right? We're getting into, this is Monday of like, a week and a few days out, and we according to the GFS, have a tropical depression by Tuesday of next week, or Tuesday of 2 weeks out, okay? And we'll see what the system does. I mean, this is very far out, but we'll just see where the GFS takes us, and we don't get a system. But at the same time, looks like we might have a potential tropical cyclone brewing in the Gulf, all right? That's going to be a huge headline, okay? That's, whenever you see that, you just got to worry about, just any tropical system getting into the Gulf is always something to worry about. But this takes it all the way to October 1st. Here we go. The big number. This is where our second peak of hurricane season will begin. Probably this is around early October, and then we're getting to fall where our cooler temperatures begin. We're starting to see some cold fronts, starting to see some snow in some areas. So, just pretty exciting time of the year to see us get back into fall in those colder times of the year. So that's all I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe out there. I'll try and do some during in-storm updates for you guys out there while the storm is going on. See, if we get any breaking news or highlights, I'll definitely share that information with you guys. But just got to make sure that you're staying safe if any of you are watching and tuning in from these areas out here. And as always, don't be scared. Be prepared. Make sure that you know what situation you're in, and what scale of impact will you be receiving. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.